Good morning, everyone. Today we can discuss about the next portion in module 3, that is waterfall model. We had already discussed about the different types of models and principles of information security or for providing security policies in a particular system. We have Bell-LaPadula model, Biba model, Clark-Wilson model, Chinese wall model, etc. Along with there is another model that is known as waterfall model. So actually, it is the first process model to be introduced. All it's referred to as a linear sequential life cycle model, where it's very simple and easy to understand. In waterfall model, each phase must be completed before the next phase can begin, and there is no overlapping in the phases. Okay, in waterfall model, a particular system implementation is divided into number of phases, and each phase must be completed before the next phase can begin, and there won't be any overlapping of these phases. So all these phases are cascaded. That means the progress is seen as flowing steadily downwards like a waterfall through the phases. That is why this model is known as waterfall model. It is otherwise known as linear sequential life cycle model. Here number of phases are for implementing a system, and each phase should complete it before the next phase can begin. Also they are cascaded, and the progress is seen as flowing steadily downwards like a waterfall. So this is the structure of a waterfall model for a system implementation. We need a system requirements and software requirements and do the analysis process. After that, we have to design the based on some programming, and coding should be the and testing. Then last phases, it should be in an operator mode or in an operations. Okay, this is the normal structure of a waterfall model. So what is actually system requirements? System requirements, we have to identify and select some requirements for the system to be implemented. So we must identify and select and document like functional, scheduling and financial requirements of a system. First, we have to identify that. That is about system requirement. Next is the software requirement. Also, after identifying the requirements for a system, we have to identify the software requirements for implementing this system. We have to identify, select and document the software features necessary to satisfy these system requirements. Actually, we are collecting the requirements for a system implementation. For implementing that system, we need some software help. So, in next phase, we have to identify which all softwares are needed for implementing this system, or which all software features are necessary to satisfy these software requirements. And in third phase, actually it is an analysis phase. It is a process of methodically work through the details of each requirement. We have to analyze each requirement and we have to work on that. After analysis of these requirements, if it is a system requirement or it's a software requirement, we have to analyze that. We have to work on it. After the analysis process, we have to design. What should be the architecture of the system? It should be designed. So for that, use programming techniques to design software and hardware within the constraints and objectives set in the earlier stages. In earlier stages, we have to identify, or we selected the requirements of a system and requirements like software requirements. So based on these requirements or based on these constraints and objectives in the earlier phases, we have to design the software and hardware part of the system using some programming methods or programming techniques. After that, we have to implement this design based on the program or implement the program as designed in the earlier stages. After the program coding, we have to test the software if that will result in a particular solution or not, if the system is implemented correct or not. After testing, if it is okay, we can deliver that product. That means we can install and configure the completed software. That is actually operations. So these are all the phases that is included in a waterfall model for a system implementation. Okay, this is the earlier model, but it is actually implemented as an iterative model in later time. Here each step progresses and the design is further detailed. There is an iteration with the preceding and succeeding steps. Okay, so in this waterfall model, we have added some additional features like an iteration procedure. That means there is an iteration with the preceding and succeeding steps. That is actually iterative model. The virtue of all this is that as the design proceeds, the change process is scoped down to manageable limits. The testing phase, which occurs at the end of a development cycle, is the first event for which timing, storage, or input-output transfers, etc. are experienced as distinguished from analyzed. So, based on this phenomena, we are using some external constraints. So, the design is redesigned. That is actually iterative model. So, in iterative model, the structure is like this. That is, between the preceding and succeeding steps, the phases are iterated. There is an iterative model. Okay. So, we have system requirements, we have software requirements, we have analysis, we have program design, coding and testing and operation. All these phases are iterated. Actually, it is a waterfall model, but you can see in this figure, preceding step and succeeding steps are iterated. Clear? That is why these are known as iterative model. Okay, but unfortunately, these design iterations are never confined to successive steps. But actually, all these steps are not iterated, but some steps are iterated. Actually, this is the actual iterative model. But in waterfall model, some steps are iterated. You can see from testing to program design, there is an iteration. From program design to software requirements, there is a need of iteration based on the system implementation. Clear? So, waterfall model, that is the basic model or the first introduced process model in which some advanced features are implemented like an iteration, not in a all preceding and succeeding steps, but in some successive steps there is a need of iterations. That is actually iterative model. So here are the 5 additional features that must be added to the basic approach to eliminate the most of the development risks. Actually, in original waterfall model, there is a risk of problem in developing a particular system or software. So we must need a redesign. That is actually an iterative model. So here 5 additional features are added. First one is program design comes first and document the design. Do it twice. If it's needed design procedure in a second time, do it twice. Then plan, control and monitor the testing and always involve the customer with the product development. Okay, that is the basic 5 additional features that can be added to the original waterfall model. Okay, so what are the advantages of this waterfall model? It is actually easy to understand and easy to use and easy to manage. And the phases are processed and completed one at a time and the phases do not overlap. That is the basic model. It works well for the smaller project. It requires a lot of paperwork. When a new team member joins, reference documents help them to understand the project. Their output is generated after each stage, therefore it has high visibility. Okay, these are all the advantages of the waterfall model. And it has lots of disadvantages Here, more resources may be required, more management attention is required, although the cost of change is lesser, but it's not very suitable for changing requirements, and it's sometimes it's not suitable for the smaller projects. Generally, it is suitable for smaller projects, but sometimes it will not suitable for the smaller projects. And the management complexity is more, and end of project may not be known, which is a risk. And highly skilled resources, maybe highly skilled members and other resources are needed for the risk analysis. Project progress is highly dependent upon the risk analysis phase. So these are all the disadvantages for the waterfall model. Okay, so these are all about the different types of models in a implementing some security confidentiality policies like Bell-LaPadula model, BIBA model, Clark-Wilson model, and Chinese wall model. After that, we have waterfall model. Okay, thank you.